You know, one of the fun things about this job that I have is introducing the speaker. And this year we have a rather homegrown candidate. Mike Beatty, United States Air Force, 1967-1971, is our speaker. And Mike was stationed in Southeast Asia with the 62nd, 17th Combat Support Group. And Airman Beatty was a disc jockey for the Air Force at Ching Chang Kung CCK Air Force Base, which is a Royal Chinese base in Taiwan during the Vietnam era. He played a variety of roles, including the Top 10 Countdown radio program on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Airman Beatty also volunteer to act as the NCO liaison for Operation Drug Amnesty in Taiwan. This program was developed to assist military personnel that acquired a drug problem during the Vietnam War. The program assured the participant of no less than a general medical discharge and made available much-needed treatment for their dependency. Beatty served as the liaison between the airmen and the medical staff and did that well. A Baltimore native, he grew up in the shadows of Memorial Stadium but has called Ocean City home for the past 33 years. And since 1981, Mr. Beatty, better known as Ocean City's legendary party DJ Batman, has performed at over 7,000 appearances at clubs and colleges up and down the East Coast, as well as virtually every club in Ocean City. And Batman is still working the circuit as well as serving as weekend host on Rock 98. Mike and his wife of 35 years, Mike's wife Cindy, continue to be very active in our community with volunteer work, primarily for the Worcester County Humane Society and the Children's House by the Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome United States Air Force veteran Mike Batman Beatty.
Thank you. I'll tell you, Fred was out here on Saturday during rehearsal, and he practiced saying Ching Chuan Kong all day, and he still got it wrong. But you did pretty good, Fred. You did pretty good. All right, good morning. Good morning. When Sarge Garlitz asked me to speak today, my first response to him was that there are so many people in this county, in this city, right here in Ocean Pines, that are certainly far more deserving to speak at this sacred occasion than I. But Sarge is a pretty good salesman, so here I stand, very humbled and certainly very, very proud. I'm extremely honored to stand in front of the citizens of Worcester County, and especially you men and women that have honorably served our great nation, to offer a few words in honor of our country's fallen. It's been a long time since I wrote a speech, probably since my high school days, but I do remember the first rule, and the first rule is write what you know. So my words today, in part, are going to be about a stadium. Growing up in Baltimore, in the shadow of the old 33rd Street Stadium, I never thought much about the meaning of the name. It was just Memorial Stadium. But coming back home on my first leave in 1968, I rode up 33rd Street and I looked up to those 20, 25-foot letters, and it hit me for the first time why this beautiful arena was named Memorial Stadium. And my thoughts went back to an inscription that I had seen and read so many times in my youth as I entered the stadium. It was an inscription that spanned the bottom of the facade, and it read, "Time will not dim the glory of their deeds." And it's why we're here today. It's why there are thousands of memorial gatherings such as this across our country. Looking at this crowd, time has certainly not dimmed the glory of their deeds. On this day, on Memorial Day, we gather to honor those that made the ultimate sacrifice one day out of the year. But I say that whether we know it or not, we really honor these heroes every single day of the year, every single day of our lives. Every day we wake up in America, we honor them unknowingly. We honor them when we appreciate being able to walk into that voting booth. We honor them every time we appreciate the freedom to travel freely. We honor them and we appreciate the fact that we can get on that soapbox and voice our opinions. We honor them just by the fact that we can gather here today. We honor them when we stand and remove our hats as the stars and stripes pass by. We come together today to honor America's fallen, but I'd like to take a moment to recognize and introduce you to a few individuals in the audience today. One is a retired Master Sergeant, decorated, recipient of the Army Commendation Medal, recipient of the Soldier of the Year Award, served overseas in Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and awarded the Bronze Star for meritorious service in a combat zone. Now, the reason I introduce him, other than the fact that Doug, or DJ as we call him, is my nephew, and I'm a very proud uncle in saying that, is because he's here. Doug has been in harm's way, but he is here. Also with us is, I'm not sure where he's sitting, but with us today is a World War II veteran. He served in the Pacific, discharged as a captain in 1946, and in 1966, 20 years later, gave me my first job in Ocean City at Old Pro Golf. And we just celebrated his 92nd birthday, and that's the Old Pro himself, Herb Sholkoff. Also with us today is an Ocean Pines resident, United States Air Force, 1967 through 1971. He was a crew chief on the KC-135s, that's the in-flight refuelers that took care of the B-52s, and he was based out of Utapao, Thailand during the war. We joined the Air Force together, and we were best friends even long before that. He was the best man at my wedding 35 years ago, and that's my buddy from Ocean Pines, Barry Green. You give Barry a round of applause. Now, these are three very important people in my life, and I mention them here at this occasion only because it causes me to think of the families, the widows, the widowers, the kids of our fallen patriots, the families that have had to bear the incomprehensible sadness of an empty chair at that family table. Those Gold Star families have also paid a price and deserve to be honored and remembered on this day, and certainly every day. Right there. I am, as many of you that served during the Vietnam era, were children of the 60s. We were the generation that wanted and demonstrated very loudly for peace. From those young and somewhat naive days, it took a while to realize that the truth is our nation has always pursued true peace, and our country still seeks it today. But the sad truth is peace and the freedom that comes along with that comes with a price. The reality is that peace doesn't happen because we shut down Route 1 in College Park during a peace demonstration. It doesn't happen because we put a flower into the barrel of a National Guard soldier's M16. Peace comes with a price. Peace requires a military presence and the risk and the sacrifice that come along with that presence. In reverence, we gather here at this solemn Veterans Memorial on this Memorial Day in honor of the men and women who took that risk and made the ultimate sacrifice, not in our country's quest for war, but in our nation's noble quest for peace and freedom. As those of us who served during the Vietnam era know so well, the civilian reaction to our military and even our casualties of war was not at all positive back then. Today, I'm optimistic. I've seen a change, I think we've all seen a change in the way that our military is viewed. There's a heightened sense of remembrance of our fallen. It's taken a long time since the 60s to return to the reverence that this country felt for soldiers from the greatest generation, World War II, and the Korean War. While I was stationed at Langley Air Force Base, I was volunteered to be a member of the official honor guard. Now, being TAC, Tactical Air Command Headquarters, there was a constant need for an honor guard to greet the visiting dignitaries and high-ranking officials that constantly came through Langley. Now, this type of duty was welcomed by all of us on the honor guard. It was usually meant an entire day off and a pretty good meal outside of the mess hall for a change. And this type of function usually called for us just to be standing at stiff attention, all pressed and polished for the generals and the politicians. In the event of rain, we even were assigned to hold umbrellas over the heads of the dignitaries' wives. It was pretty good duty. But far too often, we, the honor guard, were called upon to participate in a ceremony that was certainly not welcomed, and that was the military burial service of a veteran. Our response area covered about a 100-mile radius out from Hampton, Virginia, so we performed the ceremony in some of the largest cities in that state, down to some of the smallest little towns. One ceremony stands out in my memory. We were called out to a small farm in a little town called Vicksville, Virginia, to a tiny private family cemetery that was situated in the middle of a large field of crops. At this particular service, I was one of the 7 airmen on the firing line that provided the 21-gun salute. So, along with the bugler, who would sound taps, we awaited the family's arrival at the gravesite. Now, we would always hope that the service would be for a retiree, a veteran that had put in his 20, 30, or more years, then enjoyed a long, happy life after his military service. But in those days, 1968, 1969, far too often that was not the case. As the motorcade pulled up to the field and the honor guard carried the casket of 50 yards or so to the gravesite, it was obvious that this was not a retiree. Walking behind the casket, behind the family, was about 100 kids. They were my age, 16, 17, 18 years old. We knew right away that this was probably every student from the local high school in this little town, all coming out to pay their last respects to one of their own. It was a beautiful, moving service on a bright summer day in the middle of that field. Lots of grieving, of course, lots of crying. But the image that always stood out to me was his father, his dad, maintaining a face of courage, even though his heart is most certainly broken. I can only hope that somehow his father knew and understood, and maybe took some bit of comfort knowing the time would not dim the glory of his son's deeds. On this holiday, as we leave this memorial site today, as you gather with friends and family for the cookout or go over to Ocean City for a carefree day on the beach, have everyone with you take a moment. Take a moment to remember our servicemen and women, and remember that because of their dedication to duty and their ultimate sacrifice, this freedom has been made possible. To close, I want to go back to my beloved Memorial Stadium and quote the rest of the words on that plaque. It read, "Memorial Stadium, erected by the City of Baltimore in 1954, dedicated by the Mayor and City Council and the people of Baltimore in the state of Maryland, as a memorial to those who so valiantly fought and served in the world wars, with eternal gratitude to those who made the supreme sacrifice to preserve equality throughout the world." And as I see the turnout for this event, the final words on that plaque are certainly prophetic. Time will not dim the glory of their deeds. May God forever bless the fallen heroes of our great nation. May God bless their families, and may God bless the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. Thank you.
Mike Beatty.